One of the biggest questions I have about the upcoming Wolverine game is what villains will Insomniac decide to include? There are so many different possibilities due to the fact that Wolverine has crossed paths with a lot of great villains over the years. There are already a few confirmed villains like Mystique, the Reavers, and Omega Red. However, outside of that, we have no other major confirmed villains. But based on what we've seen from Insomniac's previous work with the Spider-Man games, we know there's a really good chance that we are going to see several more notable villains from Wolverine's Rogues Gallery. And because of that, I want to talk about 10 villains slash boss fights that I really hope we get in this game. I'll explain in a little bit what I mean by specifically boss fights and not just villains. To kick off this list, let's get the obvious one out of the way, that being Saber-tooth. Now, even though I said some villains from this list will not make it into the game most likely, and I totally understand that, when it comes to Saber-tooth, I would be absolutely shocked if he does not make it into the game in some capacity. Saber-tooth is one screwed up individual who has an argument to be Marvel's darkest villain, and the worst part about Saber-tooth is the fact that he doesn't typically have a fleshed out motive that at least makes you kind of understand why he does what he does. He simply does it for the love of the game, and it is terrifying. His rivalry with Logan is one of Marvel's most violent and best. I have full faith Insomniac is going to deliver something great, but in order to get a truly amazing Wolverine game, there needs to be a part of the game where you get to throw hands with Saber-tooth. If that is absent, I think the best the game can do is probably a 9 out of 10. Of course, I'm somewhat joking, but seriously, the Saber-tooth Wolverine rivalry is that important, and I think it would be a big missed opportunity to not include Saber-tooth in the game. A character who is not always a villain, but oftentimes is, and for the sake of this video is going to be one, and is someone who recently got the worst of Saber-tooth's wrath, is Daken, also known as Wolverine's son, and I think he'd be a great inclusion in the game. Like his father, he has a healing factor as well as bone claws, one of which is located on the inside of his wrist, which I always thought looked really cool. Additionally, Daken is a very skilled assassin who was trained by Romulus as well as Silas Burr, which makes him a threat to Logan in hand-to-hand combat. Also, story-wise, I think there's a lot Insomniac could use, as I always found the dynamic between Daken and Wolverine to be quite interesting story material, as Daken was manipulated into believing Wolverine was responsible for his mother's death, which of course sets him on a path for wanting to take Logan out, but finding out the truth of what actually happened makes them interesting allies and sometimes adversaries, and I just think if Insomniac were to work him into the game, I think not only is there a lot of potential in terms of the combat and the story that they could present, but I also think Daken is an immensely underrated character that, given the spotlight in something like this, could make him a much more popular character. Romulus, who features heavily in Daken's story, is another character that I think would be a great addition into the game. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he played a pretty large role in this game as perhaps the character pulling the strings behind the scenes. Of course, I don't have any evidence to go off of, just call it a gut feeling. I'm not trying to make any predictions, but I do think Romulus could fit that role, and I definitely think he's a character that has the potential to be actually pretty awesome. And I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, and I totally understand that because his use in comics has been pretty disappointing and underwhelming, even though I do think there is potential for more, especially with a fresh adaptation. And in the hands of Insomniac, I'd be really interested to see what they do with the character. I do think there are some interesting threads to pull out story-wise when it comes to Romulus. For example, he is the one that is actually responsible for the death of Daken's mother, and I think that'd be a really interesting thread to pull on, but that's only one example of how Romulus has tried to mess with Logan's life throughout the years. He is a skilled and powerful combatant that I do think would make for a really fun boss fight. I do understand that he wouldn't offer much in terms of variety, as he does share a lot of abilities with Logan, but I still think it could be fun. I totally understand that much of his comic existence has been pretty disappointing and has even ruined parts of Logan's history, but I truly would like to see what Insomniac could do with somebody like this. Next up is Cyclops, which I do say jokingly, as Cyclops, of course, is not going to be a villain in this game, but I do want to carve out a little section in this video strictly dedicated to what I am labeling boss fights, which are characters that are not traditionally villains, but because Wolverine is oftentimes an asshole or pitted against these characters, I could see Wolverine and this character getting in a fight, which would be fun to add into the game. Is it likely? Absolutely not, but I just think it'd be exciting. And the three characters I want to put in this section are Cyclops, the Hulk, and Deadpool. Starting off with Cyclops, this one would be really easy to work into the game considering Wolverine and Cyclops are always at each other's throat, usually due to some ideological difference or gene. And I think it's very possible that the X-Men do make some sort of appearance within this game, and if they were to make an appearance, I think it'd be really exciting to see Scott and Logan go toe-to-toe. Saying the X-Men are likely to appear is probably a little bit strong. I could totally see them not showing up, as the focus of this game should absolutely be on Wolverine, but Scott's my favorite character, so I'm absolutely going to be wishing until I play through the game that Scott is going to make some sort of appearance, whether that's with the rest of the X-Men or just himself. The inclusion of Hulk would be a great way to pay homage to the first appearance of Wolverine in the comics, and just Hulk versus Wolverine in general is something that's happened several times in the comics, and it's just awesome every single time, and I would love to see another iconic fight between the two in this game. And if Insomniac was smart, they would use it as an opportunity to set up a new Hulk game within the Insomniac Marvel universe. Again, this is me just wish casting, but damn it, I cannot be the only one that wants to see see a brand new Hulk game. We are long overdue. And finally, there is Deadpool, which if I had to put money on any of these three, this honestly feels like the most likely due to the success of the movie with them. All I ask though is if you include Deadpool, make it something fun like a side mission. I do not need them trying to X-Men Origins Wolverine this game and make him a bigger deal than he has to be. A fun fight would scratch my Deadpool itch plenty. Speaking of side missions, one villain that I think is just perfect to headline one of the side missions in this game is Bloodscream. For those of you unfamiliar with Bloodscream, even though he is not technically a vampire, he basically is one and he absolutely hates it and wants to die. However, in order to die, he needs the blood of somebody who does not age. Because of that, he has been trying to hunt down Wolverine, who he first fought in World War II during the Battle of Normandy and later met again in Madripoor, where he realized Wolverine didn't age. Bloodscream is an immensely powerful character with abilities like super strength, super speed, and healing factor / immortality, just to name a few. Also, with so many years of experience fighting in war, he has become a very skilled combatant, and it would make him a very dangerous threat in something like a boss fight. Also, just the thought of a random vampire-like creature attacking you out of nowhere is exactly the type of side mission I think is great for a game like this. Also, Bloodscream oftentimes works with Roughhouse, who is an Asgardian mercenary who is extremely dangerous as a fighter that I would also love to see, as they are typically paired together within the comics and make for an extremely dangerous duo, and I just think it'd be really cool to see an Asgardian in the Insomniac Marvel universe. One character who is an absolute badass and would make for an absolutely awesome boss battle is Lady Deathstrike. I mean, she's a cybernetic assassin with adamantium claws. What else do I really have to say? Lady Deathstrike is without a doubt one of Wolverine's coolest villains, and the potential in a boss fight is absolutely through the charts, as she is one of the best hand-to-hand combatants in Wolverine's rogues gallery. Additionally, we know the Reavers are going to be playing a role in this game, which is a group that she has worked with in the past in the comics, so that could be the easy in story-wise to get her to appear in the game. The last villain I want to talk about is Ogun, who is a former mentor for Logan and an extremely powerful character who is a master at both mystical and physical combat. One of the things I just love about this character is the design with the red mask. I know in the landscape of comic villains, it is a bit more of a simpler design, but I have always thought it just looks so badass. His relationship with Logan is unique, as they have trained together for quite some time, and Ogun taught Logan martial arts and the ways of the samurai, and that added layer of history makes the relationship far more interesting than a lot of the standard hero versus villain dynamics. His greatest strength is his ability to transfer his consciousness into other bodies, which makes him a character that is virtually impossible to get rid of and is immensely powerful. He's probably too powerful to be a side villain, but regardless of whether it's a side mission or the actual main story of the game, I think it'd be really awesome to see Ogun appear. However, now, I want to know, what villains are you hoping to see in Marvel's Wolverine game? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video.